More than 30 million people have turned to recovering awkward person and human behavior hacker Vanessa Van Edwards to learn the science of succeeding with people. As founder and lead investigator at Science of People, Vanessa developed a science-based framework and actionable tools to improve your EQ, interpersonal communication, and leadership. Her innovative work has been featured on CNN, BBC, CBS, Fast Company, and Entrepreneur Magazine. And she regularly teaches science-backed people skills to companies around the world, including Google, Facebook, Comcast, and Microsoft. Hundreds of thousands of students have taken Vanessa's communication courses, and her best-selling book, Captivate, The Science of Succeeding with People, has been translated into 15 different languages. Please welcome Vanessa Van Edwards to the summit.
Hello, friends. I am so honored and excited to be here with you, especially because I think we need this more than ever. Now, I know we're new friends, but I thought I would start off with a little confession, which is that I am a recovering awkward person. So this is me in 3rd grade. As you can see, I loved a good plaid vest. I think the braces went really well with my bowl cut. So I had the kind of anxiety that made me afraid of recess and playgrounds and birthday parties, and then later made me dread networking events and job interviews. Naturally, this made me obsessed with the cool kids. I have always been fascinated by those people who walk into a room and they radiate confidence, and the people who effortlessly captivate people, and also those folks who always seem to get chosen to lead. Now, this curiosity, I had no idea would turn into an entire career studying leaders. And I spent the last decade at Science of People studying the hidden forces that drive our behavior. Now, here's the good news. There are natural-born leaders, but there are also naturally made leaders, and that's what I hope to talk to you about today. One of the very first questions that we asked ourselves was, what makes a leader? Now, research from Harvard Business School found that when we first see someone, we're judging them on 2 different traits, warmth and competence. So when someone first sees you, the very first thing they're thinking to themselves is, can I trust you? Warmth. And can I respect you? Competence. Now, here's where the research gets really interesting. Most people, most non-leaders, have an imbalance in one of these traits. So there are people who rank off the charts in warmth, and they're seen as sweet and compassionate and friendly and relatable, but they're not seen as powerful or capable or dependable. On the other side, there are people who rank off the charts in competence, and they're seen as smart, powerful, dependable, but a little hard to talk to, not collaborative, not a great team player. What we found is that there is a sweet spot. What makes a leader is that they rank off the charts in both of these traits. They're both friendly and warm and collaborative, but also powerful, capable, dependable. And so we created something called the scale. Now, I want you to take a look at this scale, and I want you to try to place yourself on it. We found that we can place everyone somewhere on this scale. I want you to take a look. Do you fall a little higher on the warm side, where people see you as friendly, as relatable, as collaborative, but maybe they forget having met you before, or they forget your name? Or are you a little higher on the competent side, where people see you as very smart, very capable, but you've been told you're hard to talk to, or intimidating, or cold? My entire goal today, my entire mission in life, is to move you a little closer to the center, to hit that sweet spot of getting both respect and collaboration. The very first thing that we have to learn about that leaders are exceptionally good at is they are purposeful with their cues. If we're constantly sending these cues of warmth and competence, the question is, how do we control our signals? And I want to start off with one of my favorite experiments. Okay, here's how it went. So Brian Wansink brought participants into his lab, and he turned off the lights and blindfolded them. and he handed them a bowl of strawberry yogurt. And all the participants, blindfolded, ate the strawberry yogurt and then rated the yogurt on its strawberry flavor. Now, there was a catch. 59% of the participants said that the yogurt had a nice strawberry flavor, but the yogurt was actually chocolate. What? Everyone knows, every 2-year-old knows, my daughter certainly knows that strawberry and chocolate taste totally different. So what was happening? This is the first of many experiments that demonstrate a powerful psychological phenomenon called priming. And priming is that our words shape our actions, our behaviors, and our thoughts. They not only expect and change the thoughts and behavior of others, they also change the thoughts and behavior of ourselves. What happened in that experiment is Brian Wansink gave the participants a bowl of yogurt, and he said to their brains, "This is strawberry." Their brains heard strawberry and then tasted strawberry. We don't realize that the words we use are incredibly powerful, that we are constantly sending our words out into the world without realizing how they're actually shaping what people hear and then how they act. I want to drill down into a microscopic example so you can see how this is happening in every area of our life. So, ashamedly, I used to send emails just like this. Maybe you've seen them in your inbox before. It's like this. We're all set for the meeting next week. I'll prepare an overview and sample proposal for you. Then we can review them. Let me know if you have any questions. Right? Kind of boring, kind of sterile. Maybe you've sent emails like this before. This email is okay. It does the job. But what if we thought about priming with this? What if we changed that email to think about how we want the recipient to feel and act? What strawberry yogurt do we want them to taste? This is only one more word than the last one. But see how it sounds different. I'm looking forward to collaborating next week. I'll prepare a goal worksheet and overview of desired outcomes for both of us. We can work through everything together, happy to answer any questions. Doesn't it feel different? What's amazing about this is when you tell someone to collaborate or you use the word collaborate, their brain hears collaborate, and then they're more likely to be collaborative. We don't realize that we are doing this all the time in our communications. Think about how many times a day do you open your calendar? So I don't know about you, I open my calendar 10 to 15 times a day. What we don't realize is our calendar is actually one of our biggest primers for ourselves and others. We send calendar invites all the time. Call, meeting, conference, one-on-one agenda, right? How often are you opening your calendar and seeing these words that mean nothing? They prime for nothing. What if we thought about how we wanted someone to think and act and behave when we got together? Or even more so, when they simply saw our name on the calendar? What if we used words like collaborative session, strategy session, mastery meeting, creative time, accountability hour, goals session? Every time you share a word like goal, someone is more likely to think their goals and then embody their goals. What I want you to think about here is how do you want someone to think, feel, and act before, during, and after interacting with you? A lot of the time, especially fellow recovering awkward folks or introverts like me, we tend to think that our interaction starts the moment we first see someone. My argument today is actually our interactions start the moment someone first thinks of us. And that often happens with our LinkedIn profile, our calendar invites, our chats, our texts, our email invites, our TikToks, although I don't know much about TikTok, so don't ask me about that. The other way that this happens all the time, so I don't know about you, but I've been spending a lot more time on video calls. And every video call starts the same way. It starts like this. Oh, can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh, hi. Oh, gosh, it's been so stressful. How's the weather where you are? It starts off in this horribly awkward negative way. And by default, for some reason, we often start with the negative. We start with terrible traffic, bad weather, I've been so stressed, my schedule's so crazy, I'm so busy. We throw those intros away, or we walk into a barbecue, oh, it's been so stressful. The problem is, when you use words like that, you're actually telling the other person's brain to think about terrible, bad, stress, crazy, busy. You're priming them to think in that loop. What if, before an interaction, especially before those dreaded video calls or those phone calls or those texts or those emails, we thought about one way that we could prime for positive. Oh, so happy to see you. What great weather. I've been looking forward to this. It's great to be here. It's always such a pleasure to speak with you. Then the brain hears happy, great, pleasure, looking forward. This sounds simple, but just like that strawberry yogurt experiment, when you use words like this, you're actually changing their brain patterns. And secretly, and this is my not so secret motivation, is you're also changing yours. When you are sitting before a conference call, I don't know about you, I sit before a call or before a meeting and I'm on my email. I'm like checking my email and I'm in a kind of negative to-do list space. If you know that you want to start with something positive, you have to think to yourself, what's the good thing? What's the good thing? What's the good thing? And that totally changes the way that you approach the meeting too. The cool thing about this is that you can do this based on your charisma scale. So let's say that you're really high on the competent side and you want to be seen as more collaborative, more warm, more friendly and approachable. You can use more warm words in your communications. Friend, cheers, together, collaborate, excited, happy to be here, best both. You can even change your email signature to prime the exact word you hope to use. Or let's say you're a little higher on the warm side and you want to be seen as more competent. You can use more competent words like productive, brainstorm, effective, power through, efficient. When you use those words, you're not only setting yourself up to think more competently, you're also helping others be more competent as well. So here's my very first takeaway. This is a brave one. So after this talk, I want you to do an email audit. This is when you open up your email, look at your last 10 emails that you just sent. And I want you to count the number of warm words and count the number of competent words. I've learned with my students that one of two things will happen. One, you'll be off the charts in one of those categories. You'll have lots of warm words or lots of competent words, and you'll realize, that's where I fall on the charisma scale. On the other side, you might see no warm or competent words at all. And this means that you have gotten sterile with your communication. I don't know what's happened in the business world. I've been doing corporate trainings for years, almost 12 years now. And I've noticed over time, our communication has gotten less and less emotional. We're priming less and less and favoring this sterile, neutral kind of communication. When we do this, we're not setting people up for success. The second thing we have to talk about is trust. So we started off with intention, but trust is next. And before I tell you what that is, I have a quiz for you. So at home, think about when you first meet someone, what part of the body do you look at first? You can just call it out. Eyes. Okay, so the most common answer, you probably guessed, eyes, mouth, face. But actually, when we first see someone, the very first place we look is their hands. And this is because, think back to our stranger caveman days. When we were in our caveman days and we were approached by a stranger caveman, the very first place we looked was their hands to see if they were carrying a rock or a spear. Now, I'm gonna do something mean to your brain. The moment I put my hands behind my back, part of your brain called the amygdala, where you process fear, just slightly begins to fire. And the longer I leave my hands behind my back, the more distracted you become with the fact that my hands are behind my back. And you're thinking, can she just take her hands out from behind her back? And that's your brain's way of protecting you, because when we can't see hands, we can't see intention. And then the moment I bring my hands back, you're like, that is so much better. And that is because we use hands to show intention and trust. So here's the first really easy part of this tip, is visible, visible, visible. When someone sees your hand, in their brain, they're like, friend, 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 friend. So you'll notice that some of the best TED speakers come out on stage the same way. They do this, watch. They go back here and they come out. Have you ever noticed that? They're literally saying friend, 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 friend. I also encourage you to do this on your video calls. So a lot of the time, the biggest mistake we have in video calls is it's just our little face, right? So there's absolutely no nonverbal at all. What I want you to do on your next video call is always start with friend, friend, friend. So just, hey, nice to see you. Good morning, good to see ya. It's like you're telling the other person's brain, you can trust me. You can see my intentions. There's a reason why we say, get your hands up. So I always knew that hands were important for trust, warmth on the scale. But what I didn't realize is how they tied into competence. So I love TED Talks. I don't know if you watch TED Talks. I am obsessed with them. I watch one almost every day at lunch. And one day I was searching leadership on TED.com, and I realized that these two talks popped up. One had over 40 million views and one had less than 30,000. And I wondered why. Why do some TED Talks go viral and others don't? In other words, who are the cool kids of TED? So my experimenters and I, we sat down and we analyzed thousands of hours of TED Talks looking for patterns. I wanted to know, why do all these experts and authors, brilliant speakers, why do some get millions and millions of views and others don't? So we looked at every variable we could think of. Hands, smiling, body language, gender, color of what to wear. And there was one big pattern. So the least popular TED Talkers, and this is just by view count, used an average of 272 hand gestures in 18 minutes. That's a lot of hand gestures in just 18 minutes. But the most popular TED Talkers, by view count, used an average of 465 hand gestures in 18 minutes. This was a light bulb moment for me because I realized, first, we want to see someone's intention, right? Those best TED speakers, they come out on stage waving. But the second thing that TED speakers do is they demo their concepts along with their hands. So see if this looks familiar. Every really amazing TED Talk starts like this. Today, I want to talk to you about a big idea. I'm going to break it down into 3 ideas that will change your life. Does that look familiar? Right? All the best TED Talks start that way. What they're doing is they're saying, I know my content so well that I can speak to you on 2 tracks. I can speak to you with my words, and I can speak to you with my hands. For example, if a TED speaker or even I were to come out and say, today, I want to talk to you about a big idea. This big idea is going to change your life. You're like, Vanessa, it doesn't look very big to me. It looks pretty small. And that is because our brain gives 12.5 times more weight to our gestures than our words. Or if I were to come out today and say, today, I'm going to talk to you about 3 different ideas. Your brain is like, no, Vanessa, it's 5. Thank you. I can see it's 5. And so what our brain does is our brain gives a lot of weight to gestures because they know that's a signal of competence. If you know your stuff really well, you're able to speak to someone on 2 tracks. So here is my next takeaway for you. Always show your hands. I want you on video calls, parties, when those start again, networking events, friend, 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 friend. And then second, if you have a really important concept, especially a highly complicated concept, or you want someone to understand something, think about how you can underline or outline with your hands. All right, we've talked about intention, we talked about trust. Now we have to talk about inspiration. My dad always says that you should leave people better off than when you found them. The best part about priming is about expectations. When you assume the best in others, they are most likely to rise to the occasion. And this is a very different way of thinking. The science proves this. In fact, when they tell students that they're smart, those students actually do better on tests. When they tell people that they are polite, those people interrupt less. In other words, when you expect the best and you use warm and competent words with them, they're more likely to then act as their best self. This is another opportunity that we throw away all the time. Intros. How often have you heard an intro like this? Laura meets Sarah. We have Sarah on the call. Here's that quick email intro to Sarah. This is a crime against Sarah. Here's the kind of intro I would love. Sarah is our wonderful head of marketing. She's been leading the team for 5 years, and we are so lucky to have her. This actually does 3 things. As in the phrase, it feeds one bird with 3 seeds. I like that one. So what this does is, one, is it sets Sarah up for tremendous success. You're actually priming her so she feels like she is lucky and creative and a leader. It also sets up the person who's working with Sarah to think, I'm lucky to be working with Sarah. And it also changes the way that you see Sarah because it's setting you up to think, how can I prime for her? How can I prime for her? The other way that this happens and things we might not expect is this was an experiment that was done with nonprofits. And they sent out 2 different versions of the same request for donations. In the first request, they asked, would you be willing to help by giving a donation? In the second, they asked, would you be willing to help by giving a donation? And then 4 more words. Every penny will help. Those 4 words are powerful primers. Every penny, so a specific amount, because what they had found is that people often think, oh, their donation is too small, and help. Yet again, that most important word when it comes to donations. That first letter got 28% donations. The second one, with only 4 more words, got 50% donations. Just those 4 extra words of priming. So here's my takeaway. I want you to think about what is your biggest opportunity for priming in your emails, in your profiles, at home with your family, when you're talking to your children, your spouse. How can you set them up to be the best version of themselves? All right, last one here is on influence. So this is my favorite study I'm going to do today. This was a study that was done with doctors. They had doctors record 10-second voice tone clips. So it sounded like this. Hi, my name is Dr. Edwards, and I specialize in oncology. I work at Children's Presbyterian Hospital. They took these clips and they warbled the words, so you could hear the volume, the pace, the cadence, but you couldn't understand the words that were being said. So it sounded like this. Right? Then they asked people to rate these doctors on warmth and competence. They found that the doctors who had the lowest warmth and competence ratings had the highest rate of malpractice lawsuits. This hints that we don't sue doctors just based on their skills. We sue doctors based on our perception of their skills, and that happens within the first few seconds of hearing them. The question is, what were the patterns? Why is it that some doctors ranked off the charts in competence and warmth and others didn't? The first one was that the doctors who had the lowest competence ratings used what's called the question inflection. The question inflection is when we go up at the end of our sentences. So their little recording sounded like this. Hi, my name is Dr. Edwards, and I specialize in oncology, and I work at Children's Presbyterian. Recognize the question inflection? The question inflection is reserved for just questions. But I hear people give away their power all the time. I do a ton of sales trainings and fundraising trainings, and this is the biggest mistake I hear. So a salesperson's on the phone, and they go like this. We'd love to have your business. We'd love to work with you. And the cost of the training is $5,000. When you go up on your ask, on your numbers, on your price, on your timeline, you are begging people to negotiate with you. You're saying, I don't really believe this number, and neither should you. The other way I hear this is on a voicemail. Hi, this is Vanessa. Leave me a message after the beep. So what I want you to think about here is making sure that you are telling, not asking. The second one is where it gets a little bit more advanced. So go with me on this one. The second pattern they found was that the doctors who had the highest competence ratings used the lowest end of their natural voice tone. So everyone has a natural range, low to high. I am working very hard to keep my voice range in my lowest natural range. When I'm talking to my daughter or I'm talking to my husband, I tend to go a little higher in my range, so I talk like this. But if I were to give my entire presentation in this tone of voice, it would drive you crazy. Right? Those are both natural to me, but we hear that tone of voice signals competence and confidence. So I'm gonna do something for you. I'm gonna tighten my vocal cords, and I'm gonna limit the amount of space in my voice so you can hear what tension sounds like. When we're tense, we begin to tighten our voice and our vocal cords get really tight. So when I tighten my voice, you can hear the anxiety in my voice. I also, if I do this for too long, I begin to get vocal fry, that horrible sizzling bacon sound. The moment I relax my voice, it feels so much better. And that is how we listen for competence. The key to this is every time today when I've heard my voice go a little higher in my range, I took a deep breath and I spoke on the out breath. When you breathe out and speak at the same time, it actually forces your vocal cords to open. So I want to try a little experiment at home and hopefully with people here in the audience if you're willing. The biggest mistake that I see is people answer their phone on the intake. Their vocal first impression sounds like this. Hello? At the very highest end of their range, and makes their voice really tight. What I want you to practice is saying hello on the out breath, so like this. Hello? So we're gonna try both, okay? So we're gonna first take a deep breath in and answer hello on the top. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello. Yeah, hi. Okay, now we're gonna do it on the out breath. So 1, 2, 3, hello. Is that deep? Is that good? If that didn't sound like you, if you were like, whoa, who was that deep voice? That means you are probably speaking at the higher end of your range. So here are my final takeaways for you, which is always say hello on the out-breath. And if you have important news, prices, timelines, practice saying them, not asking them. And if you can, record your next phone call and listen to see if you give away your confidence. I want to end on one final story. This is a classic story between William Gladstone and Benjamin Disraeli. Now, both of these men were running for prime minister in the UK many, many decades ago, and it was a contentious race. They were neck and neck in the polls. And a reporter decided she was going to take both men out to lunch. She wanted to see, could she see who would be better to be prime minister? So she sat down with Mr. Gladstone and she wrote afterwards, "After sitting down with Mr. Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest person in England. But after sitting next to Mr. Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest person in England." And you can guess who won, Mr. Disraeli. The point of this story is I talked a lot today about being your warmest, most competent self. But I also think what's really important about this is setting others to be the warmest, most competent version of themselves. I wanted to teach you so much today, but I couldn't fit it all in, so I filmed an extra audio training, and that's at sciencepeople.com/GLS. Of course, all my stories and tips are also in my book, Captivate. But really what I want to say is I never could have imagined that I would have gone from that socially anxious, very painfully awkward third grader to being on an amazing stage like this with amazing people like you. So I have a final set of challenges. Try to start every interaction on a positive note. Inspire trust with everyone you meet. Remember, friend, 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 friend. Expect the best in others and take every opportunity to inspire for good. Thank you so much.